Monte Sports Show. It is Taco Tuesday. Taco Tuesday, April 13th, 2021. I am your host, Monte Perez, aka the Sports Whisperer. You can follow me on all sorts of social media on Twitter, MonteJP231, on Facebook, Monte Perez, and on Instagram, Monte Perez. Two, we had 36 states tune in across the country on Sunday, watching the full Monte Sports Show live on YouTube. I want to thank our guest Vashti Hurt and, of course, Alex Gilby, actor. Just got so many emails about Alex and Vashti, how they did such a tremendous job. People were laughing. People really enjoyed those two guests, so I want to thank them. Our goal is to do this 5 days a week, and we can only do that with your help. Right now, we are trending number 3 on YouTube. Trending number 3 on YouTube. Very happy about that. What does that mean? Okay, you type in sports shows and you can see the Norm Macdonald show is always trending number 1. Norm Macdonald, you rat bastard. always beating me in the trending wars. But right now we are trending number 3. All right, so how can we make this go 5 days a week? Few things. 1, subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts Sports YouTube channel. Get your friends to subscribe. 2, if you're watching this show right now, hit the like button, the thumbs up button right there. Make sure you get us a like and tell your friends and family. Tell your friends and family, and I'm sure we will reach our goal as soon as possible. Keep the comments coming. We always love having the comments. Yes, we are going with blue today. We are going with blue today. My blue long sleeve shirt right there. So yes, dark blue is the color for today. We have the best guests all across the country, and this week is no exception. In about 15 minutes, Jack Almeir is going to join us to talk about everything you need to know regarding the Boston Celtics, the Boston Red Sox, and the New England Patriots. And then George Lopez. We have a little Boston-LA rivalry going out. George is going to update us on the Dodgers, what's going on with the injury-plagued Lakers. Seems like every time they play, someone gets hurt. They're now saying that LeBron and Anthony Davis are not going to play until about 10 games left. LeBron and Anthony Davis will not play until about 10 games left. We start each show with the good, the bad, and the ugly, so let's get right to it. But the good, the bad, and the ugly, this portion of it is brought to you by Beam Organics. Beam creates the highest quality functional supplements for better balance, performance, recovery, and sleep. We all need better sleep. Go to beamorganics.com and check it out. All right, let's start with the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, one of my favorite players here, Enes Kanter. I remember this when he was with the New York Knicks, and he went at it with LeBron James, did not back down. The crowd loved it. And I remember Enes Kanter after the game said, "What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to back down because he's LeBron?" He's like, "I'm wearing a Knick uniform. This is our house. Got to defend our house." Well, Enes Kanter, who's been a spot starter in Portland, had 24 points and a franchise record 30 rebounds as the Blazers beat the Detroit Pistons 118-103 Saturday night. Kanter bested Sidney Weeks' Portland record of 27 rebounds in 1975. I love this dude. Jack's going to join us in a few minutes. And I remember telling him, "Hey, Jack, you don't want to get rid of Enes Kanter. I know he can't defend, but he's a double-double machine." So, 24 points, 30 rebounds for Enes Kanter. And again, this was such a good moment. Probably the only time I was rooting against LeBron. Enes Kanter's like, "Not in my house. Not in my house." So congratulations to Enes Kanter for 24 points and setting a franchise record 30 rebounds. 30 rebounds. Congrats to him. All right, so that's the good. Now let's get to the bad. Look, we're seeing so many injuries. Warriors rookie center James Wiseman reportedly suffered a meniscus injury in his right knee in Saturday's 125-109 win over the Rockets, according to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. Wojnarowski reported that the Warriors have not set a timetable for when he would return. Wiseman, the number 2 overall pick in last year's draft, sustained the injury in the second quarter, landed awkwardly. Rocket forwards Kenyon Martin Jr. tried to dunk over him. I know he was taken off the court. Look, guys, we know this. Okay, we hate to see injuries. I don't care if it's your rival. I don't care if it's your team. Injuries are just part more so now because the season has not. They don't have as much training camp. They don't have much practice facilities, practice time, all because of COVID-19. So you hate to see that. You hate to see that. All right, so that's the good. That's the bad. Now let's get to the ugly. Uh, Came home today and I saw that Kevin Durant in a heated Twitter war with Shannon Sharp. Now, this is what I'm going to say. I'm not going to get into what's going on between those two. But here's what I know, right? One of the oldest quotes, one of the quotes that's most used in the NFL and all sports, Herman Edwards. Herman Edwards, right? You play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game. That's Herman Edwards. Now, I'm going to say this right now. I want my show to be the best sports show on YouTube, when I get on radio, when I get on TV. I want to be number one. I want to be the best. Okay? I think this show is the best. We don't have the ratings or the numbers to back it up, but I think it is. And one of the reasons is I have great guests, no doubt. And also, guys, I prepare. Okay? I have, 10 pages of notes for an hour show. I don't want you to ever feel like you're lost in the conversation, even though I'm doing a monologue right now. That's why I always put up pictures, make it easy for you to understand, the casual sports fan or the diehard sports fan. But for Kevin Durant, okay, to come out and say this week, okay, he said this week, once I won a championship with Golden State, I realized that, like, my view on the game is all about development, like how good I can be. It's not about, winning a championship. Let's go get a championship. I appreciate all that stuff, but that's not what it's about. Now, I remember the Rangers owner, James Dolan, once said about their general manager, it's not about wins and losses. Really? What is it about then? How much you talk to the guy? How much you hang out with the guy? What do you mean it's not about wins and losses? Are you judging the guy on how many times you go out to dinner with Glenn Sather, your childhood idol who built the Edmonton Oilers dynasty? It's not about wins and losses. Kevin, if it's not about a championship, why didn't you stay in Oklahoma City? Now, someone may say, okay, you know what, Oklahoma City, not a lot to do at night. It's not a big, not as much to do as in LA, San Francisco, New York. Okay, so you go to Golden State. You win 2 titles there. If it's not about titles, Kevin, why'd you go to Brooklyn? I don't understand. I want this show to be the #1 YouTube sports show in the country. That is what I work towards. What do you mean it's not about winning championships? What is it about? Why are you playing sports if it's not about winning? Ricky Bobby, if you ain't first, you're last. I don't understand that this thought process. Damian Lillard said the same thing. Russell Westbrook has said the same thing. It's more than winning championships. Of course it is. You're providing your family, your grandkids, your great-grandkids with generational wealth. I get all that. But don't you dare, when you've been on 3 teams hunting for a title, tell me that it's not about championships. The Brooklyn Nets are building their whole team to stop LeBron James. So for Kevin Durant to sit there and say, oh, it's not about championships, I don't want to hear that BS. I don't want to hear it, Kevin. Because as a professional athlete, as someone who's in the media, whether you're on the radio, it's about ratings, it's about being #1. Now, I learned this a long time ago. Okay? My goal when I coached Ramapo College was to get to the Final Four. We didn't get to the Final Four. We missed it by 1 game. 1 game. We made it to the Elite 8. And I realized at that moment in time, if you set your goals high, even if you don't reach them, you could still be a success. So This YouTube show could be number 2. I would still want to be number 1. You could be happy and content, but I'd still want to be number 1. The fact that Kevin Durant says it's not about championships, if I'm the Nets owner, I'm like, what the hell am I paying you $164 million in a 4-year contract for? Why am I paying you $164 million if it's not about winning a championship? If you don't want to compete, Kevin, go do something else. Fans don't want to hear that. Fans don't want to hear that. And as someone who's won 2 titles like Kevin Durant has with the Golden State Warriors, I'd expect him to be a little bit hungrier. I would expect him to say, hey, yeah, if we don't win, it's a failure of season. Joe Cardozo, God bless him. He says he's a bougie Yankee fan. Joe was on my show last Tuesday, the owner-operator of Nuts and Bolts Sports, and he said, if we don't win a title, by the way, the Yankees haven't won a title since 2009, he said it's a failure of a season. Kevin Durant doesn't feel that way. So what am I paying him for? What am I paying him for? Come on, Kevin. You're better than that. And that was the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right, guys, I do this every Tuesday. I break down 1 or 2 teams in the NBA. We've broken down about 15 so far. So this week, I am going to break down the Memphis Grizzlies and keep the chats coming. I'm going to get to them in a little bit. They're in the 8th seed right now, Memphis, okay? Jonas Valanciunas is averaging 16 points. Jonas Valanciunas is averaging 16.7 points a game, 12.8 rebounds per game. He's been very good. Ja Morant, their young point guard, is averaging 19 points, 7 assists. But here's the deal, guys. Don't tell me that Memphis being the 8th seed, is good for them to make the playoffs for playoff experience. You don't get any playoff experience when you get steamrolled in the first round, which they will by Utah or by Denver or the number 1 seed. Okay? Don't tell me that it's good for them to make the play when they're going to get steamrolled in the first round. Here's the problem. Dylan Brooks, very good player, is the 3rd option. He's only averaging 16 points a game. But guys, as you see in the picture here, Grayson Allen and Kyle Anderson, maybe the slowest player in the history of the NBA. Kyle Anderson is averaging 12.6 rebounds. Grayson Allen just over 10 points a game. It's better for them to not make the playoffs and get a top 15 draft pick. And here's why, guys. Here's why. You're not going to get a lot of free agents to come to Memphis. So how do you build your team when you have a small market? First of all, I'd love to live in Memphis. Looks like a super fun city. But most NBA players are not going to go to Memphis. So you do what the Golden State Warriors did. You build through the draft. You draft Draymond Green. You draft Klay Thompson. You draft Steph Curry. And then once you start winning, free agents will come to you. Right now, this team is basically 2 guys and Dylan Brooks. And that's all they got. So if I'm the Memphis Grizzlies, I don't want to make the playoffs. I don't want to make the playoffs. I want to get a draft pick and start building around Ja Morant. Get another swing player who's just as athletic or who could shoot. But the Memphis Grizzlies, let's make the playoffs. You're going to get swept in the first round. At best, you win 1 game. Build through the draft. It's what the Warriors did. Okay? It's what great organizations do. Now, listen, everyone wants to, Monte, but you're a LeBron James fan, and they went to, the Heat. Well, the Heat had Dwayne Wade. They had Udonis Haslem. They had Mario Chalmers. Okay? And then when LeBron went back to Cleveland, he was originally drafted by Cleveland. Kyrie Irving was drafted by Cleveland. Tristan Thompson. This is what I'm saying. You build through the draft, especially for a team that's trying to get to that second level. Memphis is not going to get a lot of free agents, so this is how you build it. And if I'm them, I would not make the playoffs. I would not make the playoffs. And there you have it, breaking down the Memphis Grizzlies. And let's do it. Let's get right to the crowd. Let's get right to the crowd. Always love. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Okay, Laura, you need the notes because you can't count on Rico. Rico, let's see. Rico is it? Yes, Rico lives for fantasy football. Rico, wow, Rico's not even here tonight, and he's getting wrecked. Getting wrecked. Why are we booing LeBron James? Why are we booing LeBron James? I don't understand that. That's no good. Why are you booing him? Don't hate on LeBron. Exactly. Exactly. Don't hate on LeBron. Yeah. Memphis, OKC. You're right, Greg. They will not draw big free agents. Uh, Listen, we saw what happened with the Oklahoma City Thunder last year. Chris Paul was there. They were tanking, and they were so good they made the playoffs. They traded Chris Paul. They traded him because they were trying to tank. It didn't work. They were trying to tank. It didn't work. So yeah, keep the comments coming. We love having them. We try to get to all of them. Tristan Thompson. Tristan Thompson is a cheating jerk face. Wow. 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 All right. Memphis Grizzlies should definitely not. Yeah. Listen, I don't think they should make the playoffs. They're going to get swept. Small market teams, you got to build through the draft. Small market teams, you got to build through the draft. All right. We're going to bring on Jack Almeir. He's an Emmy Award winning writer, broadcaster, has his own podcast, one of our favorite guests. Jack, thanks so much for joining the Full Monty Sports Show. How are you?
Good, Monty. Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Listen, I want to get right to this. We're going to have George Lopez come on in a little bit. So just throw this in the back of your mind for a second. He's a Laker fan. I want you to think of the greatest moment between Boston and LA, and then George will come on. So just throw that in the back of your mind. Right
okay.
Now. Okay. Right. Early on in the season, Red Sox, after losing 3 straight, have won 7 in a row. Their offense is 6, averaging 5.5 runs per game. What's worked so far for this team?
Well, I was really glad to see, even in those first 3 losses opening up the season for the Red Sox, that, they had some solid starting pitching coming out of the gate. Nathan Eovaldi had a great day on opening day. They followed that up with a nice outing from Tanner Hoke. So, there was a lot of encouraging things there. And I think that was going to be the question mark. I think, as you're starting to see here in the latter half of the week, they're scoring runs. And so I never thought that was going to be a problem for them. And they really didn't do that in the opening week, but their bats have gotten hot really in this latter half of the week and into next week. So really excited to see kind of how that continues to trend upwards. I always thought this was going to be an exciting team that scores runs. And, if they have the pitching as well, maybe they can make a run at one of those wild card spots.
Yeah. I mean, 7 in a row right after, you're like, oh my goodness, we're 0-3. What's going on? And listen, as of Sunday night, JD Martinez was batting .417, 5 home runs, 16 RBI in 8 games. He's 33 years old. Is he on the back 9 of his career, or could this be his prime?
Yeah, I think he's probably nearing towards the end. Whether that comes in the next 2-3 years, we'll see. But I always believed, and I think I said all this on the show before, that last season where he was batting like .210, that was a fluke year. It was a shortened season. He didn't get a ton of games in. I'm really looking at this year as going to be a bounce back for him. He found that kind of power when he came to Boston and really found a home at Fenway Park and has been able to just crush homers. And, we're used to seeing 30 home run seasons from JD Martinez. I think we're going to see another one, if not more, this season.
I'm interested. Talk about your manager. For the casual fan who don't know anything about him, what do you like? What don't you like?
Well, he's a former Red Sox. So, he knows kind of what this city's all about. And Alex Cora, credit to him in owning up to his part in what happened during the whole Astro scandal. Unfortunately, the Red Sox got some blowback there. So
does that bother you? Did that bother you getting him because he was part of that scandal?
No. I mean, he had such great success taking this team, winning a World Series with this team. When the opportunity came after the suspension was over and things did not work out, bringing in Ron Reineke, the bench coach there, elevating him, just didn't work. So going back to who you had success with before, he has got a great relationship with Rafael Devers, who sees him as a father figure. I think that him coming back to this team that really embraces him no matter what, I think that was going to be good for your organization.
Okay, so you talked about the starting pitcher. My biggest concern is who's going to be the number one guy. If you're going into a big series against the Yankees, against the Dodgers, who's going to be the guy you say, give me that ball? He's going to get a 7 innings, 8 strikeouts, 2 hits, no runs.
Well, the reason why Yoan Moncada is in Chicago is who should be your starting pitcher there in a big series, and that's Chris Sale. So,
right.
You're hoping that eventually he gets to a point health-wise where, he's consistent. I think right now, though, if they were to go into a series, it would be Nathan Eovaldi, the World Series hero. He performs great in the clutch. I think they really like what they've seen from him in the postseason. And, that's why after that World Series run, he got that big deal to hang around. So I think that and when Martin Perez was unable to go on opening day, Eovaldi slid in there. So I don't think in a series you go Perez first. I think you go Eovaldi. And so I think that's their main guy right now. But hopefully, Chris Sale returns to that rotation.
So if healthy, all your pitchers healthy, good enough to win a playoff series. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. Look, I'm looking at this season realistic. I'm trying not to get too caught up in, 7 games in a row. Awesome. But, baseball is a marathon, not a sprint. So you got to kind of temper some expectations here. And I think eventually the Yankees are going to figure it out. They're most likely going to win the AL East. So you're looking at trying to grab one of those AL wildcard slots. I think they can do that. And I think that they can win a game necessary to give themselves a chance to play a playoff series. So
okay, so what's the ceiling for this team? Are you saying we're good enough to make the wild card? Listen, I don't know how they keep doing it. Tampa Bay doesn't spend any money, yet every other year, they're good. So this division, Toronto has some guys who can really hit the ball. Their offense is pretty good. You look at the AL and you say, wow, there's a lot of teams that can score runs. There's a lot of talent out there. So what's your expectation? Because normally I had the owner of Nuts and Bolts Sports on. I said, look, the Boston Red Sox are now the elite team over the last 15, 18 years in the AL East. It's not the Yankees anymore. The Yankees have won World Series since 2009. So is it playoffs or bust, or you don't think you guys are that good?
Well, I think management and everybody sort of came into this season thinking that, it's going to be another building block, another bridge gap to whatever comes next. And they didn't spend a ton of money. And I kind of looked at that as you didn't see the difference maker necessary to open kind of your wallet and dish out money like I think a lot of Boston fans wanted to see during the offseason. They made some good trades. I like how they sort of set themselves up. Marwin Gonzalez looks like he's going to be a steal. So I think they have the pieces there together. I definitely think that, the ceiling here is maybe winning a playoff series. And if you can do that, I think you walk away feeling pretty good about yourself. Get Alex Verdugo a little bit of experience in more of a leadership role with this Red Sox team because, he's your marquee guy you got from the Mookie trade. You have to look to him to sort of take that next leap and be a, top 2 guy on this team. Right now, I think he's top 5, and I'd like to see him, take the leap into becoming one of the elite players, not only, on the Red Sox, but in Major League Baseball.
All right, we're talking with Jack Almeir here live on the Full Monty Sports Show here on YouTube. Let's move to the Celtics. 5th in the Eastern Conference, been up and down all season long, but I got to tell you, trailing the Nuggets 79-65 in the third quarter to a Denver Nugget team that won 8 straight games. They went on a 31-3 run. You don't see that in dominant high school teams doing that. 31-3, they outscored Denver 40-8. Could this be the game that catapults this team and gives them some momentum? And what were your thoughts watching that game on Sunday?
I mean, it was awesome, and that's the first time that this team has sort of looked like some of the old Brad Stevens teams that, there have been glimpses of it, but that was, a full kind of performance from them in coming back and putting together that run. We've seen stretches where Brad Stevens Celtics teams have held opposing offenses to 6 points in a quarter, just, drastically changing the course of a game, totally swinging momentum. And that's what these guys did. So it's good to see them, Tatum obviously coming up with like a 50-point performance, he taking that next leap, being the guy. That was always going to be part of it. It was always going to be, when Tatum sort of arrives as a top 5 player, when that happens, that's when I think that the Celtics are, really in the contender role. I think that they've, over the last couple of years, been flirting with it. But, if you can get Tatum to be recognized and think of himself as, a top guy, then this team can roll.
I mean, you and I have argued about this. Love this dude. He had 24 points, 30 rebounds. I think you tweeted that all 3 Portland Trailblazers who held at one time the rebounding record played for the Celtics. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So you got Bill Walton, who, everybody loves in Boston, got moved over, big Grateful Dead fan after a great run in Portland. And the second guy, Sidney Wicks, who, while it did not work out so much his tenure in Boston after a few All-Star campaigns, the Celtics did get their fair share from trading him over. They got Tiny Archibald from the San Diego Clippers as well as a pick to go get Danny Ainge. So, hey, Sidney Wicks worked out for Boston.
Listen, Enes Kanter, I posted this before. This is when he went after LeBron. It's the only time I root against LeBron. But they interviewed him afterwards, and he goes, I don't care who it is, LeBron James. He goes, this is my house. I'm a New York Knick, and I'm going to defend it. I love Enes Kanter. I'm disappointed that, listen, the Celtics have done some positive things here in the trade. At the deadline, I didn't like letting go of Enes Kanter. Evan Fournier, I thought, was a huge pickup. He got hurt. What's the status? Before you tell us about his injury, did you like them acquiring him?
Yeah, I mean, it's a 20-point per game player that on paper you got for second round picks. And now, as we know, sometimes with trades in the NBA and especially with Danny Ainge, it's not necessarily totally second round picks for Fournier. You did have to give up Daniel Tice as well, which was unfortunate because I did like the way Tice was progressing.
People were shocked with that, right? Yeah. They were shocked that they threw Tice in there in that deal.
Yeah, well, you ended up sending Tice over to Chicago just to kind of make the space work. So Orlando didn't even end up getting Tice. They just took the picks. But
Tice is a fan favorite, right? And he was playing well.
Yeah, he is playing well over in Chicago too. He was playing well in Boston before the move. I think this year actually was one of his best seasons, and really he was sort of taking the leap from just a role player to a guy who is, a serious regular starter. Maybe, on the lower end of your big men in the NBA, but still he is
very serviceable, part of that rotation. Very serviceable. All right, listen. Sure. There's been a lot of injuries. Kemba Walker's missed a ton of games. Marcus Smart has been missed a couple games. When is Evan Fournier going to come back? And when this team is healthy, are they as good as any team in the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, absolutely. So they're looking at him as potentially, hoping to see him next week. I think that, when you have everybody together, that this is a team that, can make a run. And, it's going to kind of figure down to where they can ultimately see themselves going into the home stretch of this playoff run. Like, if they're looking at a Milwaukee or a Brooklyn, you're going to be in some trouble. So, I think that you want to sort of make it so that you see like a guy like a Philadelphia or, one of those lower seeds that I think you feel a little bit more comfortable playing with. So, I'd love to see them, really go on a run here, string a few wins together. But, Celtics are definitely looking up. It's kind of been a rocky season, but they're coming together at the right time.
It's funny because, yes, I'm a huge LeBron James fan, and leave it to LC because anytime we say this, it's you got to take a shot somewhere. Anytime we use one of these words, this is our bingo drinking card. I said LeBron James, so let's get right to it. All right, I'm going to say this here, and you know more about Boston sports than anybody I know, but I'm going to say this here. If this team doesn't get to the Eastern Conference Final, one of these guys won't be back next year. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's how they don't get there. It will be more kind of if they do or don't. If it's a, first round exit, they get swept and totally embarrassed by an inferior team, I would say, yeah, that might happen. And it might be Brad Stevens who ends up going to, taking a college job. And
they were saying Indiana a month ago.
Right. Yeah. And he goes home essentially. And I think that he excels at getting players to play above their station and play above their talent level and putting them in the right positions to succeed. But part of that is they have to trust him almost consistently in order for that to work out. So when we've gotten it in like the Kyries, that's where there's some friction, and Brad Stevens hasn't been as effective. So, if they kind of don't respond to him in a playoff series that they should win, in a first round series where, you get down 3 games, I think at that point they would be playing for Brad Stevens' job. If Brad can't motivate them in that scenario to go and, win at least a game or 2, then I think it's fair to say, okay, I think there needs to be a change of voice in this locker room. But I think if they win a series, they, go 4-2, lose the next one, and they put up a fight, I think you'll see the full cast of characters back. But, if there is something that makes you kind of look for a second and do a double take, something that's an embarrassment loss in the postseason, I think that maybe they would look for a change in coaching.
Greg brings up a good point here. Robert Williams play. But talk about Robert Williams for a second, because sometimes I look at him and I'm like, he's a double machine, and then he'll go games and it's like 3 points, 4 rebounds, and he disappears. Is it just he doesn't have the experience? Because sometimes he looks lights out.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's still kind of finding his footing, and he's always sort of been a 15-minute guy, and this is the first year where that's kind of up in the 20-25 range. So I think he's adjusting to having that workload, sort of thrust upon him. He's been insanely athletic, though, and this sort of happens, I think, with players who rely on athleticism. It's, how are they feeling tonight? Can they, get the runs to the basket? And Robert Williams, to his credit, though, he's done that more often than not this season. In doing so, really made an impact for the Celtics. And, absolutely right by the commentary there. That totally kind of gave them the ability to trade Daniel Tice, thin out that center rotation. I was sort of advocating for if you can move Robert Williams for Nikola Vucevic, you should do that.
Yeah, listen, Vucevic is a stud.
He's got the other magic, so.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to annoy people now because we're going to put up the Patriots background and their Super Bowls. All right, let's talk about it, because they did something this season that I didn't think they were going to do. Before we get to the quarterback, before we get to the draft pick, they got the 2 best tight ends in the NFL. What is this going to mean for this offense and what Bill Belichick wants to do? And talk about the 2 tight ends they picked up.
Well, the 2 tight ends they got, first of all, I didn't think they would go and get Hunter Henry, who in my opinion was the best tight end on the market after already locking down one of the second best tight end on the market in Jonnu Smith. So when they did that anyways, it was awesome. Great to see because of, the purported relationship that we've seen between Belichick and Hunter Henry. I think he's going to be an absolute difference maker for this team. One thing that they were definitely lacking on last year's Patriots squad was that big guy who could run the seam route, catch those footballs. And we're going to see the return of the 2 tight end system in New England.
Especially in the red zone. In the red zone.
Yeah, and that's going to be – and Belichick's been looking to do this since Gronk and Hernandez. I mean, it's not like that was a one-off. I mean, we've seen so many guys come through the door that he's sort of tried out, whether it's, Ben Watson or, they've had a number of guys, roll through there. Who man, Scott Chandler coming over from Buffalo. I mean, so they've been trying to really put this together, and they drafted 2 guys, Asiasi and Dalton Keene last year, who – putting together, I think they wanted to kind of develop those guys, and one of them will be playing for their job this offseason, but you're going to be competing against 2 of the best in the game, and I think they're really excited about what they're going to be able to do offensively with these guys.
Listen, we know Belichick loves to stockpile picks. I think they have 15 picks overall, 9th pick in the first round. I've seen a ton of mock drafts. A lot of people are talking about Kwity Paye from Michigan, the senior pass rusher, 6'4", 275. Where are they going with the draft?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see them look at the quarterback position just because I think that Cam Newton might not be the answer in the next 2-3 years. I think that's fair. I'm not counting him out as potentially having a bounce back season and really impressing people this season. I think that, coming into the year, he'll have more time with the offense. And that's been something that people have been really, really talking about as going to be a maybe difference maker in the play of Cam Newton on the field. So that, I think they look at that position right now as being mostly set going into next year. So a quarterback with their first pick, that might not be a guy that they really expect to see play for them at all this season, or maybe even the next year. So is that a waste of a roster spot? Maybe, but I would rather get the guy that you want and have him develop. I think that this is a deep quarterback draft. You have a lot of options between a Mac Jones and a Wilson. Roll the dice a little bit here.
Yeah, no, I agree. Listen, and thank you, Greg, for correcting me that they have the 15th pick in the draft, 9 overall, not the other way around. Thank you, Greg, for correcting me. All right, so listen. You talk about Cam Newton. You say you still believe in him. You say, maybe, he could do things. But I'm not the one on Twitter who's posting Cam Newton, is pulling is pulling a Peter LaFleur from dodgeball. What was going on here? Why is he blindfolded? Why did you post this? Mocking the legendary Cam Newton.
Well, I mean, you see a guy throwing a blindfold while trying to throw something, you immediately think Peter LaFleur. And I don't think that's mocking him, because if you remember correctly, Peter drilled Ben Stiller with that dodgeball. Okay. Once he put on the blindfold, that worked. That worked. Right. So
now listen, before Cam got COVID-19, he was playing very well. The team seemed to love him. I'm surprised because Bill Belichick has not said one negative thing about Cam Newton, despite the turnovers, despite not being able to move the ball downfield. But you think that's all going to change? And walk me through this, because I thought that Sony Michel was not as good as Nick Chubb, but I thought he'd be pretty damn good. And it almost seemed like because of injuries, did Bill Belichick, was it the offensive line? Did they lose faith in him? Because I think Sony Michel is still a very good running back.
Yeah, me too. I agree with you. I think, he put out the largest rookie rushing touchdown total in NFL history. I love what he can bring to your running game, and I don't think he's done yet either. I've been a big fan of Sony Michel. I'd like to see, some more of him. I think, the Patriots had kind of a good situation in that Damian Harris really broke out for them last year, and they were able to, run with him a little bit more. James White was missing time. I think that there was a lot going on in the Patriots backfield. So Sony Michel is a guy I definitely look at as being able to bounce back, take away some of that pressure off of him with the revitalized offensive line that they've brought in here. And, I think that there's still life left here in Sony Michel.
Okay, so if they have the 15th pick, my argument is going to be get Cam Newton a wide receiver. There's a ton of talented wide receivers in this draft. Would you go there, or with the 15th pick, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that they need to evaluate themselves as a team. And I'm sure Belichick is doing that every single day and trying to figure out, okay, realistically, what is the ceiling of this New England Patriots team? If he's thinking I can maybe sneak into a Super Bowl, then you go and you try to find the difference maker, like a wide receiver or a pass rusher, to your point earlier.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but my question to you is Bill Belichick saying, we got our 2 tight ends, that's going to be our offense, who cares about the wide receiver?
No. I think, I think that there's still work to be done there. Absolutely. Okay. I think, yes, those are going to be looked at as the big playmakers coming into this year. I think you're hoping something either happens with N'Keal Harry where you're able to move him. They've been sort of shopping him around, or, he takes that next step with your team. But I do think that Belichick would ideally like a wide receiver. They've been rumored to be in on a few guys, so I don't think that the door is completely closed there. I think that they might, either draft somebody or bring in somebody after the draft. But I think everybody, as far as free agency goes, is going to sort of hold tight until, you have the draft go through and you figure out kind of what young guys you have in spots, and then you sign your veterans. But yeah, I think that wide receiver is still a position that they'll address before we go into the offseason.
All right, Jack, we're going to bring in George Lopez now from LA. George, Jack, we're going to start with you. Give us your best moment in the Boston Celtic Los Angeles Laker rivalry.
I think it was just what Kevin Garnett said after, they won that first finals against the Lakers. They beat Kobe, but in doing so, they left Kobe with sort of a feeling that he's going to be back, he's coming back, and this isn't the last time we're going to do this. And, I think that was just kind of an awesome representation of what, the whole Celtics Lakers rivalry is about. It's just like greatness against greatness, in that, Kobe took a big loss one night, but Kevin Garnett's looking at this guy, one of the greatest competitors, I think, to ever play the game, looking at Kobe Bryant and, seeing no defeat in him while winning a championship. So, I think it was just an awesome back and forth that those guys had, that we got to watch, that, that has been had between the Celtics and Lakers for just generations.
Can I make the argument here? Can I say that if Kendrick Perkins doesn't get injured, Boston beats them again in Game 7?
You can make that argument, absolutely.
Yeah, I believe that, because I think Pau Gasol was petrified of him going into that 7 game. All right, George, give us. I'm going to say this: growing up a Laker fan, obviously didn't watch the Lakers with Kobe, couldn't stand them, but growing up, this is my greatest moment ever. Magic Johnson, the sky hook. What shocked me so much is all he had to do was give it to Kareem, and Kareem would have dunked it, but Magic didn't even look at him. What's your greatest moment as a Laker fan?
Well, regarding that play, the baby sky hook, that play was supposed to go to Kareem, but when McHale switched out, Magic took over. And any Laker fan, if you hear Magic down the middle, just as I thought, hook shot at 12, good. We all know it's the late great Chick Hearn calling that shot. But my favorite moment of all time, Game 6, 1985 Finals, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar hits a skyhook, running down the court.
And going crazy.
Yeah. First time anybody ever beat Boston in the Garden to win a championship. The 1985 championship will always be my favorite Lakers title.
And what's so amazing is Kareem showed so much emotion after that shot. And and this is the thing, Jack, I'll ask you first. And you don't see this anymore, because Magic Johnson and Larry Bird were the two biggest stars in the NBA. And they didn't like each other until they did the Converse sneaker commercial. Yeah. And then they realized they were so much similar than they're different. Magic was Showtime, but their love of basketball. Nowadays, and Jack, talk about this, because you used to go into the Boston Garden and you didn't win. So what George brought up right there, especially in the playoffs, I mean, Boston held the record for the longest time. What were they, 39-2, 40-1, or something like that at home? Why do you think today there's no home court? Like, the Lakers could care less about home court, COVID or no COVID, right? Why do you think that is now, and it wasn't like that growing up?
Well, I think that fans, they play a part in it, but there's definitely a little bit of that edge that we saw between the Celtics Lakers rivalry of old, where I think Cedric Maxwell said he wouldn't give a cup of water to any of those 85 Lakers if he saw them dying of thirst. So
yeah, and I think a lot has to do with it is a lot of these players, they have the same agent, so they all go out to dinner together in the off season. They all, like, forget about LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, because those guys will be friends for life. But there's no real, like, I think Damian Lillard has that a little bit. There's no real, like, animosity. I think Russell Westbrook has it. There's no real, like, heated rivalry like Celtics Boston. Chicago Knicks weren't a rivalry because the Knicks always lost, but they didn't like each other. They didn't like Michael Jordan. Like you said, they wouldn't give a cup of water. George, why don't you think that is today? Is it just because players go from team to team? And for example, like, if I'm best friends with someone, right? Let's say I'm best friends with LeBron James, and LeBron James leaves. Okay, I'm not going to hate him. and then LeBron becomes friends with someone on the Lakers. I'm on Cleveland, and then I see LeBron. We all go out together.
Yeah, it is different. Magic had always said, I would never play with Larry Bird. I would never go join his team or try to get him to come to the Lakers. He wanted to beat Larry Bird. And that's the difference. The great players back in the day wanted to beat the great players, not trying to recruit them on their teams. And that's the big difference. I think the free agency, money, free agency, endorsement deals, wherever they're going to go. And that's what it's all about right now.
George, growing up, okay, there wasn't free agency. So, like, Michael Jordan didn't have to leave. Larry Bird didn't have to leave. Magic Johnson didn't have to leave. Other than that game 6 that you're talking about, how did you feel when the Boston Celtics with Kevin Garnett beat the team and then Kobe came back? They won it in 7 games. Was that a great highlight for you, or just, you know what, I'm so used to the Lakers winning?
Anytime the Lakers beat Boston was a great moment. If you're a Laker fan, that's who you wanted to beat, Boston. And Jack, I don't know how you feel, but to me, I think the NBA is better when the Lakers, the Celtics, Philadelphia, and the Knicks, when they're competing, they're competitive, they're winning. I think the NBA is better because you get that nostalgia. You said, "Oh, the Lakers and the Sixers." I remember beating, the Sixers in 80 and 82, and then getting swept when Malone dominated Kareem in 83. I still cringe thinking about 84, how we should have won that damn series. That stupid pass Worthy tried to throw in game 2 cost us. Magic not taking a shot at the end of game 2. Worst series Magic has ever had. The Memorial Day Massacre in 85, game 1. Yeah. But you know what? Honestly, I think that was the best thing for the Lakers, getting the crap kicked out of them game 1, because it gave them a resolve like that's not going to happen anymore. Yeah, I think they needed that loss.
Well, Jack, I'm going to look, because obviously over the past few years, the Lakers have been a much better organization. But Jack, I'm going to give you something to talk trash about. How about this? And I remember telling George, the Red Sox don't lose in the World Series.
Oh yeah. Oh, it was awesome because I was with ABC7 LA at the time, and I'm, the Boston guy, and, in the room with just, LA fans. It was very, very rewarding, very gratifying. So yeah, big fan of that World Series title.
All right. Final question.
And I've said it the whole time. The better team won that series. Boston was hands above better than the Dodgers that year.
Final question for you, Jack. We'll let you go. And then George, you can answer this. Jack, any animosity towards Mookie Betts? And George, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and they were saying that Mookie Betts, when all is said and done, because of his long-term contract, could be the greatest Dodger to ever play. Do you agree with that?
Look, I mean, I don't know if he's going to be the greatest Dodger. I think that.
Did you have any animosity towards him last year after leaving Boston?
No. I mean, I think that, I was more upset that, you made a trade and you only got Verdugo and you left Gritoro and May on the table. Like, that was more where I was upset, is that you didn't get out of those guys. So, I think that anytime you have a star you're going to have to make a decision. Okay, do I give him like 10 years, 200 million, or do I try to take as many prospects back as I can? And I think in this case, the Red Sox got a good guy in Verdugo. I don't think that the trade was, what they wanted it to be. Certainly, I think you gave up more to get Chris Sale than you got back from Mookie Betts. So I think, you could have done better with the deal, but Mookie made his money. And so, good for him. And we'll see how it works out.
All right, Jack, how can we follow you? How can we support you? I seriously love having you on. I could talk Boston sports. I'm not even a Boston fan, but you bring so much passion to it. I mean, obviously, I'm a Red Sox fan, but the Celtics and the Patriots, I could do without. And Boston Bruins, I don't even want to talk about them because I'm a Ranger fan. So that's where. So how can we follow and support you, Jack?
That's fair. Thanks so much, man. I love being on the show. I'm on Twitter at Jack_Almeir. Give me a follow there. Check out what I'm doing at the Duck Boat Parade podcast. We're at Duck Boat Parade on Twitter. Give us a follow. We have a new episode with the Celtics player coming out this week. Thanks so much, Monte. It's always a blast to come on.
And listen, we'll leave with this because this was one of the funniest things I've seen on Twitter. Anytime you could quote dodgeball, you're definitely winning in my book.
Oh, thank you. Dodge, step, dick, dive, and dodge.
Thanks so much, Jack. Take care. I love that guy. I love having Jack on. He's so funny. Love having him on. All right, George.
You put me on with an award-winning guy. I mean, you put the pressure on me, man.
George, Rico and I tell you this all the time. There's no one I'd rather talk to when it comes to Boston sports than Jack. There's no one I'd rather talk to when it comes to LA sports than you. So this portion of the show brought to you by George. You like how I just roll right to it? You like how I just go right into it? I don't hesitate. I don't pause. This portion of the show brought to you by Beam Organics. Beam creates the highest quality functioning supplements for better balance, performance, recovery, and sleep. Look, we all need more sleep. Go to beamorganics.com and check it out. All right, George, let's talk about the LA Dodgers. First to my original question, can Mookie Betts be the best offensive player in the history of the LA Dodgers?
He's definitely on the right track. I believe so. Will he get there? It's hard to say. And, and that's always debatable. You're talking about different players from different eras. A lot of people are going to look at Jackie Robinson, Pee Wee Reese, Duke Snyder back in the Brooklyn days, or even Campy before the unfortunate car accident that caused him to be paralyzed. I grew up watching Garvey, Say, Dusty Baker, Reggie Smith. But yeah, I do believe that he's got the potential to become probably the best offensive player the Dodgers have ever had.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you know what? You know what I love about him, George, is he brings such a joy to the game. Winning or losing, he's never too high, he's never too low. And you saw it last year in the World Series when the pressure was on. He gets a hit, he's pointing to the dugout, he's smiling. His attitude is so addicting, and it brings other players up, right? Yeah. He's never too low.
Agreed. He is the true definition of a team player. Now, my oldest son's an Angels fan. I love to give him a hard time about Mike Trout, but Mike Trout is the definition of a team player. We're Southern California, the Angels and the Dodgers fans are lucky to have both Mike Trout and Mookie Betts playing here. They are the epitome of a team player.
Yeah, no, very well said. Very well said. All right, George, we're going to go right to the Lakers. Look, we know they're struggling. We know that this team is built for the playoffs. But I got to tell you, after seeing them dismantle the Brooklyn Nets without LeBron, without AD, Dennis Schroeder's the MVP of this team. 15 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds. Montrezl Harrell's averaging 14 and 7. Getting Drummond is just going to help them. Listen, I don't care what the Nets are doing. I don't care what Utah is doing. Detroit, Jamal Murray just has a torn ACL. So we don't, not Detroit, Denver. So we don't know what's happening with him. The Lakers are the best team, George.
Oh, like I told you, AD's out. Kuz's been out. LeBron's been out. And I'm not worried. The whole thing is get into the playoffs, be healthy, make your run then. And that's what I'm looking for. LeBron and AD, I think they're going to be out at least another 2 to 3 weeks.
They said they're going to bring them back with 10 games left, both of them.
Get them some games in. More so with AD, because seeing the calf injury, I just kept getting these flashbacks of Kevin Durant when they brought him back in the finals and the Achilles went. And that's what I kept thinking with AD. Don't bring him back too soon. So I think they're handling it the right way. Okay, get him back right before the playoffs start. Get his legs fresh, get his lungs built up, and we can make a run. Now, picking up, Drummond and Ben McLemore, that's giving Vogel a lot of options. They're going to be able to go 10, 11 deep come playoff time.
Yeah, and listen, someone was saying today, yesterday, they were saying that power beats finesse. And one of the things that the Lakers lost, they lost their power with Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee. You may say, JaVale McGee's not a power guy, but he blocks shots. He's intimidating. One of the things the Lakers had is they were so long. Drummond is the perfect complement to AD. AD doesn't have to go near the paint anymore. He can stand on the outside, shoot threes, shoot his jump shots. This team is going to be long, and they are built for the playoffs. I don't see anyone beating them.
Well, I always, and I've said it since the beginning of the season, look out for Denver, but them losing Jamal Murray, which, that really broke my heart because I'm actually a big fan of his. I wanted Denver to be healthy because I thought Denver would be the team that was going to push him, and possibly Utah. Now, I know Andrea doesn't like me saying this, but I'm still not worried about the Clippers until they prove they can get past the second round.
Right.
If they can get past the second round, which they've never done in franchise history, I'm not going to worry about them. They got to show that they can do it. Denver was a team I was really concerned about. Utah, kind of concerned about them, but now that Murray's out, Denver's still going to be a dangerous team, but I think they're just going to be, they're not going to be firing on all cylinders without Murray.
And I think the problem with the Clippers is you lose Montrezl Harrell. You have no interior scoring right now. You have no one who protects the rim. Zubac, I thought they were going to go out and get JaVale McGee. I thought they were going to go out and try to get someone long and athletic. I don't see anyone protecting the rim. Zubac's always in foul trouble. They lost a ton of scoring. Lou Williams is no longer there. So I just think it's a two-person team, and they have no interior play. You can't post Kawhi Leonard every time down the floor.
No, and unfortunately, at some point, Paul George is going to disappear. Unfortunately,
yes.
It's the unfortunate reason why he tends to disappear, because I think he's a tremendous player, but at some point in the playoffs, he's just going to vanish, and it's going to become a one-man show.
All right, we're talking with George Lopez here on the Full Monty Sports Show live on YouTube. Make sure you put the thumbs up and like this show, and definitely subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts Sports YouTube channel. George, we're going to talk about USC. Andy Enfield in his 8th season made it to the Elite Eight, but I'm going to say something here that you're probably not going to like. UCLA made it to the Final Four. Mick Cronin just signed a 2-year, $8 million contract. I think UCLA is now a better team than USC. What do you like about this coach? What don't you like? And are you worried that UCLA now is the team in LA?
Well, when it comes to college basketball, UCLA should be the team in LA. I mean, the tradition, the history of UCLA, they should be competing at Sweet 16 or better every year in the tournament. I thought they had a tremendous run. And I wasn't expecting much because of the way they ended the regular season. They went into that slump, got bounced out early in the Pac-12 tournament. But honestly, I think that Final Four game against Gonzaga is probably one of the best college basketball games I've ever seen in the tournament.
Listen, UCLA lost 4 straight going into the tournament. No one had them in the Final Four. Again, Andrea's attacking you. Why is everyone sleeping on the Clippers? They're only 3 games behind first place. Haters. Okay, so you knew that was coming, George. All right, yeah, it was a great run for the Trojans. Unexpected. They're going to lose their star player to the NBA. Do you like what he's done over 8 years? He started off the first 2 years were terrible. They've won 20 wins of the last few years. What do you like about him?
Well, what he's doing different now is he's building not so much through recruiting high school players. He's doing it through the transfer portal.
Right.
And he's going to do it again. They just actually got a commitment today from Boogie Ellis. He was a 4-star point guard out of San Diego who had played at Memphis. And he entered the transfer portal and just announced last night that he's going to come play for USC. So that's a huge pickup for them because they were down to 1 point guard. So he's going to get it's a big pickup. NFL's going to go again through the transfer portal, try to rebuild because they're losing 9 players from this roster for next season.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's got a good recruiting class coming in, but he is going to try to do it again through the transfer portal, get some veteran players who can provide some leadership. So I actually like him doing it that way.
Yeah. Now listen, I think one of the reasons why Roy Williams stepped down is he said the transfer portal it's a whole new world. Like college basketball is evolving with this transfer portal. You're not recruiting high school kids. You're basically trying to recruit men at this point. All right, we're going to switch gears, George. We're going to talk to the LA Dodgers, who are in first place, just killing it. But, George, I got to tell you, I am so impressed with what the Padres are doing, what they did last year. Starting pitcher Joe Musgrave threw the first no-hitter in Padre history. Are you worried about this team?
No. I mean, they're going to have a great year. I won't deny it. I thought they had a tremendous year last year, did a lot better than I expected last year. And you have to expect with the addition of Musgrove, Snell, and Darvish into that starting rotation, they're going to be even better.
That rotation is pretty damn good.
It is.
Big game pitchers.
It is, and I won't deny it. They are going to, I was actually trying to get tickets for the Dodger Padres series when they come here next week, and I wasn't able to grab them because that's a series I'm going to get up for. I think the Padres are going to fight them tooth and nail to the end. But at the end of the season, it's the Dodgers are going to claim another Western Division championship. The Padres, because I'm still not sure what's going to happen with Paddock and Lamet, the number 4 and 5 starters. You know what you're going to get with Snell, Darvish, and even Musgrove, which I think Musgrove's a sleeper on all the acquisitions they made.
He's the wild card, right?
He's the wild card. Yeah, I think he's actually going to be better than Darvish this year.
You know, Jordan, I thought for a second you were going to say at the end of the day.
I was going to, but I don't have my alcohol with me, so I'm like, well, I can't do a shot, so I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, but George, how about the fans? Don't you care about the fans? Let them do a shot.
Oh, you're giving them enough for shots tonight, all the stuff you've been saying. So
that is true. All right. So I'm going to say this, and I don't know why outside L.A. people just say, oh, he's got talent. He should win. But Dave Roberts, to me, been to 3 World Series in 5 years, won 1. How is this guy not the toast of L.A.? How is this guy not considered the best manager in baseball?
Well, you've already said it, because everyone says all the talent he's got, he should be winning championships. Now let's remember, Don Mattingly had the team winning as well, but he never got him to the World Series. Dave Roberts was able to tap into something that just got him above what Mattingly was able to do. And Mattingly, I thought he did a tremendous job with the Dodgers, but Roberts was able to get him over that hump. And they bought into his philosophy from day one.
Players love him. Mookie Betts.
No, they love playing for him.
Mookie Betts, the first month was like it's like a marriage made in heaven.
Yeah, I know people are saying, is he the best coach, or is it because he's got the talent, he's got the a top management team? Saying who's the best coach is subjective. I mean, I think he's one of the best coaches in baseball. Will I go out and say he's the best coach in baseball? No. I don't think he's there yet to be considered the best coach in baseball right now, but I do think he's one of the top 3 coaches in baseball.
Okay, so I look at the Dodgers, I look at the Yankees, I look at Atlanta, and if my Mets could ever get the Mets going into today, were 6 for 47 with runners in scoring position. But if you look at their roster, they have talent. Is this Dodger offense the best offense in Major League Baseball, or can the Padres, can Atlanta, can the Yankees put up numbers with them?
Actually, yes, Atlanta can put up numbers. The Padres have the potential to put up numbers, and if the Yankees are ever healthy, we know what they can do putting up numbers. But the Dodgers can beat you so many different ways. They can beat you hit and run. They can beat you with power, beat you with small ball. The Yankees, you think Bronx Bombers, they're going to just start jacking everything.
You bring up a great point, because I don't look at the Dodgers, although they have 8 guys who can hit 15 to 20 home runs. I don't look at them like that's their bread and butter, where if the Yankees aren't hitting the home run, they're not winning games.
No, the Dodgers will beat you with great pitching, and they're going to beat you with sound offense. They're going to grind out this is a blue-collar team, believe it or not. They're going to grind out at bats. They're going to make those pitchers work. And yeah, Buki might hit 30 home runs. If Bellinger's healthy, he has a potential to hit 30 to 40 home runs. Turner will give you about 20, but they're going to grind out at bats. They're going to get the hits they need to get. They don't have to live with that 3-run home run. This is not the 1970 Earl Weaver's Baltimore Orioles. They'll find different ways to beat you, but the Dodgers are going to beat you with good pitching.
You bring up a great point, because one of the things that made the Derek Jeter Yankees so great is there was never a wasted at bat. You know how many times Paul O'Neill would strike out, but after a 3-2 count, and he fouled off 7 pitchers. The Dodgers 1 through 8 make you work constantly. There's no now. Is that the manager? Is that a mindset? I mean, what is it that makes them makes every player such a hard out?
Well, it's the mindset that the Dodgers, when they got Robert, this is what we want to do. And with the hitting coaches that they brought in, let's grind out at bats. Let's work. Let's, have a different approach with 2 strikes. They're not swinging for the fences all the time. And so it's an organization mindset. And the players have bought into it, and we've seen the results of it in the last 4 years.
Greg brings up a great point here. We talk about, the playoff series, and you just talked about the Padres' top 3 pitchers. In a playoff series, you get 2 pitchers hot, you automatically almost win. You get 3 pitchers hot, it's lights out.
Agreed. Pitching will always beat good hitting in the playoffs.
So you're not, but you're still not concerned about the Padres.
No, you know,
Is it because you look at them like the Clippers?
no, actually, I have higher respect for the Padres than I do for the Clippers, believe it or not.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to get Andrea riled up.
Yeah, I know. Same here. That's why I said what I said. I do think the Padres they're a tremendous team. They're young. They're energetic. You know,
And they're spending money. They're spending money they don't have.
Yeah, I don't know where they're getting this money from, but you know, they're doing the right thing. They're in this let's win now mentality, but I still think they have something down the road. I think those two teams are going to be competitive in the West for years to come.
And they're starting not to like each other, right? It's starting to become a rivalry.
It's been a rivalry, and honestly, you know, everyone talks about Dodgers Giants. I hated rivalry,
right?
You know, and yeah, I got into that, but I get up more when the Padres are playing them. Ever since when I was a kid watching Tony Gwynn play, I got more excited when they played the Padres than I did with the Giants, except for the last game in 1993 when we knocked Barry Bonds out of the playoffs by crushing them that day.
Okay, so going to put you on the spot here, George. Give me your NBA Finals and then give me your Major League Baseball World Series. And then look, Andrew's about to swing at you. Say one more thing about the Clippers. She's usually thinks she's always like, George is one of my favorite guests. I think that went out the window.
Well, the only thing good about a Clipper is when you're cutting your hair. That's about it. That's about it.
All right.
NBA
Finals, George. NBA.
I'm going the Lakers, and I'm still staying with Philadelphia. I'm not sold on the Nets. I mean, we were shorthanded, and we blew them out in their home arena.
Right.
If Philadelphia's healthy, I think Philly takes the East. So I got LA and Philly in the NBA Finals.
You don't believe in Milwaukee. You don't believe in Boston.
Boston's been too inconsistent this year, and I just think Milwaukee is a player short right now.
You know what team I love watching, and you got to watch out for them, not this year, but maybe in a year or two, is the Atlanta Hawks. They are playing very good basketball, and I thought Charlotte, I mean, with LaMelo Ball, obviously he's out for the year, they were playing really, really good basketball as well. I mean, not NBA final caliber. All right, so you're saying Lakers versus the Sixers. Now you're going to go – are you going Dodger Yankees?
Well – what I would like to see, or what I think I'm going to see, I would like to see Dodgers Angels, but I know there's no chance in hell at that. It's
not
just
happening.
Because it would be a great back and forth trash talking between my oldest son. But I do have the Dodgers coming out of the National League, the American League. Look out for Minnesota.
Are you concerned at all about the Braves? Because the Braves, I look at that lineup and I'm like, man, the Braves took a couple of years off, but they're on pace with their players to go on a 7-8 year run of winning that division again.
Yeah. The Braves are a tremendous team. If Charlie Morton can do what he's capable of doing, they're going to be very scary. Yeah. But I think it's going to come down. Don't be surprised if we have an NLCS between the Dodgers and the Padres this year.
Wow.
And it would be a tough 6-game series for the Dodgers to win it.
Okay, George, we love having you on, but before we let you go, talk about your son and his baseball career. Some big news today.
Yeah, on Sunday, he went to a facility called Baseball Factory. I initially thought it was just going to be an evaluation to tell him where he is, for the high school level, and it turned out it was also a tryout. And I spoke with the coach today, and he gave me his numbers. You know, they checked his 60-yard dash time, his time from first to home to first, his throwing, his hitting, fielding. He's 15, freshman in high school.
And they're already making him perform like a horse.
Pretty much, yeah. And when I talked to them today, you know, they gave, for a freshman, they liked where he is. He did better on some things that better than they expected. A couple of things they do want him to work on. But he was invited to participate in one of their events in Arizona this summer. It's basically 3 days, 8 hours a day of intense training plus plus playing games, and it's for exposure purposes to start getting his information out to colleges so he can start getting recruited next year.
Is baseball his favorite sport?
Oh, that's his only sport he plays right now. He's a big Vikings football fan, Minnesota Vikings, USC football. But baseball is his passion. He loves to play. You know, he has a dream of one day playing Major League Baseball. So I was extremely happy that he got the invite. Whether or not we're going to do it, it's a question we have to talk, because it is pretty pricey for him to participate in it.
I'm going to tell you right now, Rico and I will donate. Whatever it costs, we will donate to help out. I'm speaking for Rico. Not a lot of money, but $100, $200, everything helps. So
you know, I
you
really
could start a
appreciate that.
GoFundMe page. You could advertise on my Twitter. We can help you out with this.
You know, I appreciate that, and I know my son would definitely appreciates that. So him and I are talking. We went over the numbers that they gave me, what he needs to work on, and as a matter of fact, later tonight, I'm actually taking him for a one-on-one instruction with his hitting coach. So 11 o'clock your time, he'll be working out tonight. So
Okay.
and
Well,
then he
that's
starts.
listen.
Yeah.
That's great news. And the reason why I say it is I coach AAU. I know how expensive it is. It is ridiculously expensive. For a hotel, it's ridiculous. So anything I can do, again, I don't have a lot of money, but if I could donate 100, 200 bucks, you always come on the show. You always give me your time. I'd be more than happy. And I'm sure our fans would donate, even if it's 10 bucks, 20 bucks, whatever we can Venmo to you. When it comes to that, I will help you with that. I promise you that.
And anyone who's like, you know what, I bottom of my heart, I really appreciate that. You know, that is something I was not expecting.
Look at this.
Wow.
We will help you.
That is something, you know, honestly, I was not expecting that. Thank you guys. I really, from the bottom of my heart, I can't thank you enough for that.
Have Rico give you some of his gambling money. He can invest in your son, and if your son signs an MLB contract, Rico will get 10%. He can sponsor you like all the corrupt AAU guys do.
Well, I want to make sure he keeps his eligibility, though, you know. So, yeah, actually, matter of fact, we've been talking to him about colleges we would like for him to even consider to play for already. I know his mom is a Cal State Fullerton alum,
right?
And they have a tremendous program. So her wish is for him to play college ball at Cal State Fullerton.
And what's your wish?
I don't care where he plays as long as he gets into a school. I have no preference where he plays college ball. If he's good enough to get in, great. Wherever he wants to go, even if it's UCLA, and I'm an SC guy, if he can get into UCLA, I'd be one of the happiest dads in the world.
Going to UCLA and USC is so cheap because if you live in the state, it's so cheap. I mean, relatively speaking.
Yeah. Do you know what the tuition is at USC right now?
What is it?
Like 64, like 64,000
for in-state.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Well, it's a private school. It's a private school, so that's why his mom is more like, well, Cal States are a lot cheaper than the UCs or the private schools, but
again,
anywhere he can go.
I'm going to say this to you as a former college basketball coach. I used to go to home visits to try to recruit people. And what I used to tell them is something like $30 million a year go wasted to kids that you're available to. It's 500 here. It's 200 there. It could be so simple as Latin kid, last name Lopez, we're donating $200. You just have to do the work and go online once your kid goes to college. I used to tell them all the time, over $3 million a year in scholarships just by surfing the internet goes unchecked because people can't claim it. Sometimes they have, if you're 5'10" and you're redhead, you get $250. It's the silliest thing, but parents, you know, because filling out the application, parents don't know this. But anything you need from me, George, I'd be more than happy to help you.
You know, I can't thank you guys enough for making that offer. It is beyond unbelievable.
And listen, I know the people who are commenting, they mean it. And again, it may not be thousands of dollars, but if someone can donate 25, 50, 100, it all helps.
Oh yeah, definitely. It definitely all helps. You know, I was like, let's do it. And so like I said, his mom and I, we need to sit down and something he wants to do. Like I said, it's great exposure for him. You know, it'll help get the recruiting process started for him. So,
and here's the thing, George, even if he doesn't go this year, the fact that he got invited, once he gets stronger, he's going to get exposure just as he gets older. Now, the high school he's going to, because he's a freshman, is he going to play varsity or is he going to play JV?
He's playing varsity. And the way it was working with his school, it's more of an academic school.
Right.
Like I think last year
I don't like that. I don't like that. I like the athletic schools.
Yeah, they had a total of like 900 students last year in his school. Right. So when he went out for baseball, and I already knew, the coach told me last year they only had enough players to carry one team, and it's the same situation this year. Right. So he'll play varsity. So he will get starting. He will start because there's not a whole lot of players.
And his position?
Right now they've been working. He's primarily an outfielder. And we love him in the outfield because he's not afraid to go after the ball. But they've been working outfield, infield, and on the mound.
Okay.
So they're going to try to make him utility. They're going to bounce him around. If he had his choice, he'd probably say he wants to pitch, but I actually like seeing him in the outfield a lot better.
Listen, Andrew's saying I wish I could watch him. Well, if he goes to Arizona, take a trip.
Yeah, if we go, it's going to be in July. There's nothing like Arizona in July.
Oh, yeah. It's like Vegas in July. All right, George, we love having you on. I will text you. We'll talk more about, this AAU thing. The Arizona thing. Thanks so much for coming on. We always appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on, you guys. Everyone stay safe.
All right, take care. That was George Lopez. I want to thank George. I want to thank Jack. It was a little LA-Boston rivalry. I want to thank you guys for making the full Monty Sports Show trend number 3 on YouTube. Number 3 on YouTube. Again, if you like this show, if you like what we're doing, sports and comedy, tell one friend, tell one family member. Make sure to give us a thumbs up and like this broadcast, and also subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. And in the immortal words of Llewellyn Moss, I shall return. Carla Jean.